The most important decision any of us will ever make in our lives is the attitude we choose to carry with us each day. It's not the events of life that shape us most. It's not the circumstances. And it's not what other people do or don't do. It is our attitude toward those things. You see, every person is given the same 24 hours in a day, the same 7 days in a week, the same seasons, and the same general environment of challenge and opportunity. What makes the difference between success and failure, between happiness and misery, between a life of purpose and a life of regret, is how we choose to think about the events that unfold. Our attitude is the paintbrush of the mind. With it, we can paint misery or we can paint joy. We can color the canvas of our days with hope or despair, courage or fear, love or bitterness. Attitude is everything. Many years ago, I came to understand that we don't lie by what happens to us. We live by what we do with what happens. You can take two people, place them in the same situation, with the same tools, the same setbacks, the same opportunities, and watch how differently their lives unfold. One will see obstacles as roadblocks, and the other will see them as stepping stones. One will complain and blame, while the other will accept and adjust. One say, "I can't," while the other will say, "I'll find a way." And before long, they'll be miles apart, not because of luck or fate, but because of attitude. Our attitude is like a magnet. It attracts to us what we expect. If we expect failure, we'll often find it. If we expect rejection, we'll notice it everywhere. If we expect opportunity, we'll see doors opening all around us. It's not magic. It's simply the way the mind works. The mind filters reality through our beliefs, our expectations, and our dominant thoughts. When we walk through life with a positive, forward-looking attitude, we notice things that others miss. We see possibilities where others only see problems. There was a story I once heard about two salesmen who were sent to a remote country to sell shoes. One wrote back saying, "This is hopeless. Nobody here wears shoes." The other wrote back saying, "This is wonderful. Nobody here wears shoes." Same situation, same facts, but completely opposite attitudes. And which of the two do you suppose would end up building a thriving business there? The one who saw possibility. The one who looked at the exact same reality with a different lens. Now, it's easy to say, well, some people are just naturally positive, but that's not true. Attitude is not something we're born with. It is something we learn, something we practice, and something we must guard carefully every day. Just like physical health, mental attitude requires daily exercise. Left alone, it will weaken. If we don't pay attention, we'll find ourselves slipping into cynicism, negativity, and defeatism. Just as surely as an untended garden will fill with weeds, we must cultivate our attitude. We must tend to it. How do we do this? First, by watching the thoughts we entertain. The mind is like fertile soil. Whatever we plant in it will grow. If we plant seeds of doubt, fear, and bitterness, we'll reap a harvest of frustration. If we plant seeds of confidence, gratitude, and determination, we'll reap a harvest of success. Every day we're planting seeds. And the strangest part is, the harvest always comes, whether we like it or not. Think for a moment of a farmer. He has two seeds in his hand, one of corn, the other of nightshade, a deadly poison. He plants both in the same soil, gives them both the same water and sunlight, and in time, both will grow. The soil doesn't care which seed it's given. It will return whatever is planted. So it is with our minds. The soil of our mind doesn't care what we plant. It will return what we feed it. The responsibility is ours. Now, people sometimes ask me, "But Earl, what if my circumstances are really bad? What if I've been dealt a difficult hand?" And my answer is always the same. It's not what happens to you. It's how you choose to see it and what you choose to do with it. History is filled with men and women who came from nothing, faced enormous hardships, and still rose to greatness, not because of their circumstances, but because of their attitude toward them. Abraham Lincoln failed in business, lost elections, suffered deep personal losses, yet his attitude of perseverance carried him to the presidency. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times in his experiments, yet he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's not just persistence, that's attitude. Your attitude is a habit. It's a choice we make each morning when we rise. You can say, "This is going to be a great day." Or you can say, "This is going to be a terrible day." And here's the fascinating part: whichever you choose, you're usually right, because you'll carry that expectation with you. You'll interpret events through that lens. If you've decided the day is going to be bad, the traffic jam will confirm it, the rude clerk will reinforce it, and the little setbacks will pile up into proof. If you've decided it will be a good day, the traffic jam is just time to listen to something uplifting. The rude clerk is just someone having a bad day, and the setbacks become challenges to overcome. Same events, different outcome, all because of attitude. When we look at success in any field, we'll find attitude at the core. Skills matter. Knowledge matters. Talent matters. But without the right attitude, those things wither. With the right attitude, even modest skills can blossom into greatness. Employers know this well. They'll often say, "We can teach skills, but we can't teach attitude." That's because attitude is the foundation. It determines whether a person will persevere when the going gets tough, whether they'll cooperate with others, whether they'll keep learning, and whether they'll rise to the challenge. I recall meeting a man who told me he had been unhappy for years in his work. He said his boss didn't appreciate him, his pay was too low, and his coworkers were difficult. I asked him, Have you ever considered that your attitude might be the cause of much of your unhappiness?" He looked surprised. He had never thought of that. He believed his circumstances created his attitude, not the other way around. But the truth is, our attitude creates much of our circumstance. As he began to deliberately change the way he approached his job, with gratitude, with willingness, with initiative, he not only found his work more enjoyable, but he soon began receiving recognition, opportunities, and better pay. His circumstances improved because his attitude improved. Now, I don't mean to say that attitude alone will move mountains without work. It won't. But attitude is what fuels the work. It's what makes the difference between giving up and pressing on, between saying, "Why bother?" and saying, "Why not me?" The right attitude doesn't erase difficulty, but it gives us the strength to face it. Let me tell you something remarkable. The people who succeed most in life are not those who never fail, but those who refuse to let failure define them. And what is that but attitude? Everyone fails. Everyone encounters setbacks. Everyone faces rejection. But some see failure as the end, while others see it as part of the journey. The winners are simply those who keep going, who learn from their mistakes, and who hold a positive attitude through it all. Think of Winston Churchill, who once said, "Attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference." Here was a man who faced the darkest hours of his nation, yet his steadfast attitude inspired an entire people to hold on, to endure, and ultimately to triumph. That's the power of attitude. It doesn't just shape your life, it can shape the destiny of nations. So what should we do to strengthen our own attitudes? First, we must guard what we allow into our minds. Just as you wouldn't feed your body nothing but junk food, you must not feed your mind nothing but negativity. Be careful of the books you read, the programs you watch, the conversations you entertain. Seek out ideas, stories, and people who lift you up. Second, practice gratitude. Each day, make it a habit to count your blessings, to acknowledge what is good and right in your life. Gratitude is the soil in which a positive attitude grows. And third, act as if. Even if you don't feel enthusiastic, act enthusiastic. Even if you don't feel confident, act with confidence. Action often precedes feeling. By acting the way you want to feel, you'll soon find your feelings catching up with your actions. Now, let's not be naive. Life will test our attitude. There will be days when nothing seems to go right, when we're tired, when we're discouraged. But it's in those very moments that our attitude matters most. Anyone can smile when the sun is shining. It's when the storms come that the strength of our attitude is revealed. Hold steady in those moments. Remind yourself that the storm will pass and that you control how you respond. Your life today is the result of the attitudes you've held in the past, and your life tomorrow will be shaped by the attitudes you choose today. That's how powerful this is. Choose well. Each morning, decide that you will carry yourself with courage, with gratitude, with determination. Each evening, reflect on the day and ask yourself, did I bring the best attitude I could? I believe the greatest secret to success and happiness is no secret at all. It's right there, in plain sight. It's the attitude we bring to each day, to each challenge, to each opportunity. You can transform your life starting right now by transforming your attitude. Because when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So, as you leave here today, remember this attitude is not just something you have. It is something you choose, something you cultivate, and something you live. Choose an attitude of courage. Choose an attitude of gratitude. Choose an attitude of determination. Because in the end, it's not what happens to us that makes the difference. It's our attitude toward what happens. And with the right attitude, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, you cannot achieve.